CBN founder Pat Robertson sat down with U.S. President Donald Trump at the White House and discussed a number of issues, including North Korea, the U.S. relationship with Russia, and what's happening here in the Middle East. Here's a portion of that interview.
Well, Mr. President, I'm so glad to see you. I'm so proud of everything you're doing. Let me ask you, you have just gotten back from the G20. You were traveling around the world. What do you see as the major problem facing the world today? What's the major?
Well, we have many problems, and I was left a very, very tough meal. I will say that, Pat. It was a mess, and I think we're doing very well. But North Korea certainly is a big problem. The Middle East is a total mess. Yeah. Other than in 5 months, we have done more against ISIS than anybody's done since the beginning, and we're having tremendous success with that. But I would have to say Middle East is a tough situation, but we're getting it straightened out, and ultimately we want to start investing money back in the United States at our home. Yeah. But we have to get rid of ISIS. We have to get rid of the terrorists, as you know better than anybody. And the other is North Korea. We have somebody that is, we will find out what he is. We're going to find out. And
he has launched intercontinental missiles. Is there a possibility that we might want to knock some of those down on the launch pad or right after launch?
Well, we wouldn't want to be speaking about anything, but we're looking at lots of different ways. We're working with other countries, including China. I think China would like to see this problem go away. It's a big problem for them. And, the advantage we have is trade. We have big trade with China. And I have a very good relationship with President Xi, who I like a lot, and I think he likes me. We were just spending a lot of time together, and they are very strong with regard to, as you know, with regard to North Korea.
Will they get tough with North Korea? I mean, I know that you were so close when he was there to visit Mar-a-Lago.
Well, we're going to see. We're going to see. I mean, I would say that we had a good chance. They had an election where President Moon got elected to South Korea. Yeah. He has a much different attitude or a much different take on how to handle the situation than his predecessor in South Korea. He's perhaps softer on the issue, but maybe not, because I like him a lot. I think he's going to be a strong person and I think he's got strong views, stronger than people would understand. So we'll see how it all works out. I think China wants to help us. We're going to find out whether or not they do. But China would, in my opinion, like to be able to help us.
What's our leverage with them?
Well, our leverage with China is that China makes hundreds of billions of dollars a year with us on trade, and I want to renegotiate trade deals. But I would certainly be a lot easier in a trade deal if they were going to help us with North Korea than if they weren't. So we're going to see. The relationship is very good with China. It's very good with the president of China, who's a terrific person. We will find out whether or not they want to help, and maybe they do and maybe they don't.
What about that consortium of Arab nations that went against Qatar? Well, your Secretary of State was not too favorable to what was being done. How are we going to handle that one?
Well, Rex is doing a terrific job, but he and I had a little bit of a difference only in terms of tone. So we went to Saudi Arabia. We had one of the great meetings ever, 54 Muslim countries. And I got up, made a speech, got nice reviews. It's almost like you making a speech. But I said, we've got to stop the funding of terrorism. Tremendous money, and they're funding terrorism. So we got to stop it. So they are working very hard on that, and I believe they're going to do it. It was one of the most incredible 2 days. As an example, Saudi Arabia put up hundreds of billions of dollars of money going into buying our planes and our military equipment and investing in our country. And I said, you have to do that, otherwise I'm not going. So they spent hundreds of billions of dollars right in front of us. I mean, they were signing, and big people from the biggest countries and companies, General Electric and all of the big companies, many of them were there getting contracts, all good work for our workers. That was one of the things. But the other thing is that, and very important to me, was the funding of terrorism has to stop. And they fund terrorism, some of those countries, many of those countries. So we had a tremendous summit, and I think things are going to work out. I think it was a very, very important and very impressive 2 days. And now, as you know, Qatar, which a lot of people call it Qatar, but Qatar is now a little bit on the outs, but I think they're being brought back in because they were known as a funder of terrorism. Mm-hmm. And we said, you can't do that. You can't do that. We have to starve the beast, right? And the beast is terrorism. So we can't have wealthy countries funding that beast.
How do we handle that big military installation we've got in Qatar? What do we do with that?
Well, we'll be all right. Look, if we ever had to leave, we would have 10 countries willing to build us another one, believe me. And they'll pay for it. You know, the days of us paying for things are going to be largely over. They'll start paying. Sure. You know, we go out, we build, we this, we that. But you're right, Qatar, we're going to have a good relationship with Qatar. And we're not going to have a problem with the military base. But if we ever needed another military base, you have other countries that would gladly build it, believe me.
You went to the G20 and you met for the first time face to face with Vladimir Putin. And George Bush had once said he stared into his soul and came away satisfied. What do you think? Can we trust him?
Well, look, we had a good meeting. I think we had an excellent meeting. One thing we did is we have a ceasefire in a major part of Syria where there was tremendous bedlam and tremendous killing. Mm-hmm. And by the way, this is now 4 days. The ceasefire is held for 4 days. Those ceasefires haven't held at all. That's because President Putin and President Trump made the deal, and it's held. Now, I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe as we're speaking, they start shooting again. But this has held, unlike all of the other ceasefires that didn't mean anything. So that was a great thing that came out of that meeting. I think a lot of things came out of that meeting, but I do believe it's important to have a dialogue. And if you don't have a dialogue, it's a lot of problems for our country and for their country. I think we need dialogue. We need dialogue with everybody.
Sure. Mr. President, thank you so much for being with us. It's always a joy to see you.
Such a great honor.
And we're so proud of what you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Well, Pat Robertson wasn't the only evangelical leader to meet with the president. A number of faith leaders gathered in the Oval Office to pray for President Trump. Tony Perkins, Pastor John Hagee, Ralph Reed, Michelle Bachman, and many others were also there. Johnny Moore, former senior vice president at Liberty University, posted pictures of the prayer time. But he says it was much more than just a photo op. Moore says it shows a substantive relationship between the evangelical community and this administration. He added that faith leaders are enjoying frequent access to officials throughout the Trump administration.